All right, team, welcome back to After Hours. We are going to have an amazing show for you today. You guys are probably feeling very uncertain right now about crypto, stock market. Maybe you're looking at a gold chart and you're not feeling so certain about your gold investments right now. Team, we're going to tackle it today with the focus being, market coverage, technical analysis. Is the bull run over? Is this the bottom or the beginning? And then at the back half of the show, which is going to be our title for the show, we're doing something a little bit fun today. I was telling Matt before the show, we've been so serious over the past couple months. Interviews, talking Hedera, talking Casper, talking XRP. Today I want to do something a little bit fun on the back half of the show and do something called Crypto Bros Rank Worst Coins to Ever Exist. So if you've been around the crypto charge community, I'm telling you right now, you're going to get a lot of joy out of this, a big kick out of this. We're going to be reflecting on some of the worst coins we've seen and rank it in a tier list. This is After Hours. Maddie, before we get into the show today, I wanted to start with this point. It was a tweet from my mentor's mentor, David Rosenberg, and he said, if Larry Fink is correct in that the trade-inflicted recession has already started, then know that all markets, from equities to credit to commodities, are only now just past the halfway point in pricing it in. Don't panic, just be prepared. And so I guess what David Rosenberg is saying here is the markets haven't fully digested the tariffs, okay? And we're supposed to be seeing tariffs later this week. We're seeing CPI inflation data come out this week that is going to precede that tariff coming to fruition. And, Powell's saying, tariffs are going to have a big impact on inflation. So we have to wait for later reports to see that in the actual data. So we're in this weird little standpoint right now. And David here is saying, the markets haven't fully absorbed this tariff news. And so I wanted to ask you, because this is like very negative here, because he's saying, don't panic, just be prepared, basically saying, oh, there could be further downside. Is this the bottom in risk on assets, or is this just the beginning?
Risk on as a whole is kind of a big, cohort to say is, from a binary standpoint, like yes or no, we're going to see incredibly more bearishness. But one of the things that I was really studying really heavily this morning, and it is something I pay attention to obviously on a daily basis, is the three main indices, right? So you have the Dow, the S&P, and the NASDAQ. And they've seen some really big size losses here. I know that in the trad markets, minus 20% equals bear market for me. There's more structural levels that I want to see violated, regardless of what percentage that is, in order for us to say, like, yes, we've lost that higher low. We're no longer creating that. We are in fact going in for bearishness. I think that we've hit a lot of important inflection points in the variety of markets. Bitcoin, Hedera, Algorand. We've hit a lot of these points where I was looking for those areas of interest to be satiated, and I think that we're kind of there right now. So to maybe add a little bit of a truth to whatever's being said here by David Rosenberg. That doesn't mean because we've struck important levels, though, that we can't do more consolidation here. We can't do multiple tests in here. And that, too, to some extent, could imply that we're not fully digested. So I wouldn't say that I am anticipating, like, let's say, multiple new legs down in the stock market or the crypto markets, but I'm also not expecting an immediate recovery. So I think that's probably where I kind of draw that middle line with the sentiment.
Good points. And we're going to get into that with the charts. Maddie's going to pull up the S&P 500. If you're not interested, you should be interested in it. I told Matt, hey, I'm interested for charting of the S&P. You're interested. Let's just do it. I don't care if the people are not interested. I want that documented because it is showing some crazy support on previous all-time highs. So we'll get into that in a second here. But, there's a lot of market uncertainty right now with tariffs. We're not going to get into tariffs today. I'm just so uninterested in everyone giving their, macro economists, put on their macro econ hat and giving their opinions on tariffs, whether it's being passed off to the consumer or the importers feeling all of the tariff and they're going to satiate that tariff. And so we're not going to talk about that today. Today, I really want to focus on our investments. I feel like this is a great point to look at the overall markets and say, what type of investor do you want to be? Do you want to be one that sits on the sidelines and, I was joking with Matt before the show, wait for home prices to come down and rates to come lower and then see that giant demand step in? Or are you going to buy your home right now? Are you going to sit when crypto prices are cheap and wait for later when everyone gets excited about crypto again? What type of investor do you want to be? Really, it's a good question, because right now you are seeing some of the best buying opportunities in the best value zones you've seen. I mean, when we talk about Bitcoin right now, we're gonna go into it in a second, but I just want to say this one thing. Bitcoin is at this morning the same level it was on November 6th, a day after Trump was elected. So there was this booyah, Trump's going to send us to the moon. Well, guess what? This morning, we're back down to where we were when Trump was elected, okay? We're seeing that rebalancing. So, Matt, we'll do our CC show afterwards, but I'm interested. Take us to the charts.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at a few things I want you guys to take a look at today. And if the kind of this breakdown is something that you want to see on a regular basis, this is a lot of the work that we do at CryptoCharge.com Monday through Friday. When we look here firstly at the Dow Jones, I had some lines in the sand. Let's come out to kind of just like current market structure, and then I'll take you guys back to a couple of examples. I won't beat this horse on the other two indices though. When we look at the key support level in here, so this was key support. You had first year consolidation developed here in September, October of 24, big bounce here in November, another big bounce here in January at the top of this year. You get this little breakdown below here, March. So just a few days ago, we popped back above. I was telling the team, hey, I need to see confirmation that we get a bounce here, because if we don't, then we have some other big pockets in here that should be satiated at lower levels. You end up getting the breakdown. You get this first candle close here, because it also closed at the lows, showed a very, very big weakness in the market. You dropped off the 50-week from a cliff there. So you saw a really, really big capitulation. So when you kind of start to zoom out though, and you look like, okay, yeah, we can maybe catch here at like 40,000 or so, but then you really look to where the bigger pocket is that should have been tested. Boom, it's right there, right? When you see that there is that 2021 high, you got the pullback, and then we got this breakout over it here in December 23. You can see that we kind of just started chugging away. We didn't do one of those big push pullbacks and then moves higher, meaning that there was a balance left behind. Interestingly enough as well, when we look at this crashing structure here from 21 that we're using as the local high in the situation, and that local low ended up being around 28,000, you can see that we did the exact same behavior there. So you had the 2020 sell-off, you get the V-bottom recovery in here. Look, you just start chugging away here. We don't get the big breakout back test move higher. You develop a rounded structure, you pull back in, you create that nice big bounce in here. In this instance, it was a very short test, and then you see moves higher. One last example we'll look at is if we take this back even further, and where did that insane 2020 low take us to? The same exact type of structure here, where you have all of this crazy accumulation and consolidation, multiple failures to breach above this key level. You finally start to break over it, and wham, breakout, no back test. And of course, it comes violently. It comes with its own, catalysts and narratives that you weren't expecting. It doesn't matter though, guys. I think that's what I really want you guys to take away from this is there is 1, 2, 3, 4 examples here of this breakout backtest behavior on a cycle standpoint. And all of them have completely different catalysts, whether it was a national health flu or tariffs or whatever. These narratives are there to help us cope with what's happening price action wise on the charts. Let's also take a look here at the S&P 500, like Gavin mentioned. And you guys can see, of course, it's been a pretty nasty sell-off in here. We look at the high down to the low, minus 21%. So actually at some point this morning, the S&P technically entered the bear zone, right, based on our old head way that we like to define bear cycles. Now, when you look at the high here for 21, we were just shy of kissing it, right? We basically gave it just a little flirtatious, kiss on the cheek, and we made our way back up. Now, like I just mentioned, guys, right? Like, does that mean you make one bounce and you're out of there immediately? No. We looked at several examples where there was a couple of weeks of consolidation. Some of them happened very quickly, but you can't determine how many tests are required. So that can lead to some more shakiness in the markets. You also look at another example here on the S&P 500, right? And you come very, very close to checking out this topping structure here from 2020 and 2021, right? You kind of see that breakout backtest behavior over and over again in these markets. This is also present in our NASDAQ, right? The NAS 100 is what we're tracking here. Do you guys see how we are basically coming and testing and backtesting, confirming those previous tops as new support? That is, in fact, the absolute best behavior you want to see. And this is not just me looking at the stock market today and saying like, oh, this is how we should be analyzing the markets. This is how I've been on our channel for 4 years now, whether we're talking about Bitcoin, the stock market, whatever. When I see a bounce left behind, I don't give a shit how bullish everyone is. That pocket is a danger zone until it has been satiated. Now we have actually, in my opinion,
Talk about Bitcoin next.
Right. We've definitely, absolutely done some important behavior here. You look at Bitcoin and you came again just within a hair, a spitting distance of testing that previous high here from Bitcoin. So when we leave these imbalances and everyone was so bullish in here, they go, Matt, it doesn't matter. Institutions are here. If I hear that one more time, I'm going to blow my brains out. I do not care. They've been here the entire time, guys. Like, this is fuck you helicopter money. This is not your mom and retail, everyone else. Everyone could not be more bullish. I knew people that were messaging me, hey, I just bought some Bitcoin at 100K. Do you think it would go any lower, right? Like, and I'm like, what is happening here? Like, the sentiment is just so insane. And I'm like, 73K needs to be backtested. Even in the Discord, we had so much back and forth of like, but is the cycle different? Do we need to do that? Nope, we actually did need to do that, and we did do that very, very well there. You look at the Ethereum price chart, right, and you guys can see that we came down. We're still pushing a little bit lower than where I would have liked to see. I would have liked to see a stop right around 1,800, but we haven't violated any of the major accumulative pockets in here. You can see that there was a huge bearish flag in here that got invalidated. So instead of setting new lows in here, we actually broke higher. We did a retrace in here for a 786, and we pulled back pretty nicely. And then XRP still needs to pull back more, though, guys. This is, and again, I'll just stand on this. I don't care. The very minimum that I will recommend anyone even considering purchasing XRP is like $1.35, and I still think that's expensive. You look at the structure, and everyone kept telling me it's not going to happen for a variety of others. You look at HBAR here. This is the zone. You guys actually roll back. Yeah, when was it? Last week's show that I think we talked about this. We said, okay, the 236 presents a very shallow buying opportunity. However, that 13-cent pocket needs to be satiated. And look what we struck here, 12.4. And I even called out 10 cents as a secondary pocket of support in there. This is not because of wizardry or knowing exactly what's going to happen in the markets or being able to time the markets, because that's the one thing I think is absolutely stupid. But what happens when you study the higher time frames on a regular basis, and this is your North Star? You know where those pockets of interest are, and you are only willing to engage in the markets if those levels are presented. This now makes sense to start building some sort of HBAR position if you wanted to now, but patience is required. So instead of focusing on sentiment and how all your friends and family feel about their portfolios, focus on the charts. They will tell you where those special pockets are, and if you're patient for them, you will get more of them than not.
Absolutely, Matt. Yeah. So what happened was, and if you even roll it back to last year, our last HBAR show of 2024 was HBAR is about to pop. It did pop, and it did the most tremendous gains most of you have ever seen in crypto. This year, a couple weeks ago, Maddie, we were going through the charts on an Ask Maddie show, and there was just no way that we were going to go for lower prices on some of these altcoins. And so the title ended up being wait to buy HBAR, blah, blah, blah. And now we're below the 23.6% Fibonacci, as we are on a lot of different assets right now, basically showing that if you were patient and if you stuck to the plan, you're now able to DCA on an asset that gives you a better risk to reward ratio than, HBAR literally dropped over 35% from that point of when we recorded the show. And so that is like a tremendous, if you don't recognize that's a great like savings for you and not wasting your money on higher HBAR prices, I mean, you're just lost in, because that is very tremendous. Like, we pick and choose about 10, 12% on our take profits on an asset, but we're talking about a 35% pullback on HBAR. So it was a tremendous call, Maddie, and the charting that has been done over the past couple months have set up this ability for us to come to you today and say, hey, how do you win in crypto right now? A couple of different things here. Have a Coinbase account. Have a Kraken account. Have an Uphold account. Multiple exchanges that you can buy and sell crypto on. Now, of course, get a wallet, like a cold storage device, like a Trezor or Ledger. I actually am not that much of a fan of my Trezor anymore. I actually like my Ledger devices. Get a Ledger. But what is the strategy here? It's actually become pretty simple. DCA the assets we're telling you to DCA, not financial advice, but it's really that simple. DCA your ETH, your ADA, your HBAR, your API3, your Zcash, your Link, your DOT, your Bitcoin Cash. Those are all in prime, different risk to reward ratios, but all in prime buying opportunity zones right now. Even if we weren't going to go set a new all-time high, Manny, right now, we'd be saying the same thing. It is still within good zones to be buying those assets right now. Don't lump sum invest, DCA. That is a strategy right now. That's how you win. If you need help, where are you going to get help at? Team, click the pin link down below. Check out Crypto Charge, our crypto education platform. Shows Monday through Friday. You have the tools on the website. If you're going to build a portfolio, there's tools for that. If you need insights into cryptos, there's tools for that. The shows by Maddie and Dan, you get that every single day. You get insights. You get the community via the Discord, but to get access to the Discord, you have to become a Crypto Charge member. Matt, what do they have to do for that?
Yeah, you guys got to use code YouTube to get that 50% off and the 30-day free trial. So that comes out to $49 a month if you guys use that code. Again, and that's with 30 whole days, no charge in your card until day 31. So I would really encourage you guys to at least explore that option. I think that there's so many tools, regardless if you've been in the space a while or not. I think one of the biggest things that people want is strategy, right? And there's not a strategy that guarantees you an instant overnight success or that every trade's going to go exactly the way that you want it to go. Most of the strategy that we talk about, especially in the consistent investor strategy, we talk about the 4 or 5 different examples of market conditions, and you automatically have a plan for each one of those market conditions. So if you're one of those people that kind of just feels like you kind of buy randomly or buy a lot of market orders just when the market feels right to you, or when you get a little bit of extra money, and you kind of just feel lost with your portfolio, you don't feel connected to it, there's a reason for that, and you need strategy. So I would encourage you guys to come check that out. You guys can also ask a whole bunch of questions about anything we talk about in the Discord. That's included with your membership. And I'd love for you guys to, have something of your own that you feel like when you're talking about, to your friends and family about investing, you actually know what you're talking about, and you're not like, yeah, well, I bought a little Bitcoin just to see what happens because everyone's talking about it, right? Be more connected with your portfolio, and it will treat you back a little bit nicer as well.
Absolutely, Matt. Team, I want to get into some fun today. We haven't done really anything fun. We've been uber serious over the last couple of months. And so I want your crypto bros, Maddie and Gav here, we're going to rank the worst coins to ever exist. So we have our tier list here, and it is going from top being the worst and then the bottom being, I guess, the least worst, right? So the top you have, you're an effing idiot for buying this. The second worst, I would say, is I listened to that loud influencer. And then third, at least it had a cool name, and then it hasn't gone to $0 yet. So we're going to talk about a couple different cryptos here, Matt, that have been kind of in the crypto ecosystem since its early days. Since 2021, these cryptos have popped up. And one time or another, we shitted on them. And so now we're just kind of like coming back here in 2025 to discuss them, what happened, maybe some takeaways and what you can learn about these cryptos might come out of this. So the first one we're going to talk about first on tap here is Dogecoin, the originator of meme coins, with a lot of this short-term speculation that happened for meme coins just being a joke that has spawned into something completely different now here in 2025. Matt, what do you have to say about Dogecoin in 2025?
From like a regulation standpoint, we've unfortunately kind of let a lot of meme coins off the hook as them just not by de facto becoming securities. So, it to some extent, I think maybe legitimizes it to some people, but I still look deeper, and I think that there's very little to no utility in meme coins like Doge. I don't think that you're going to have banks and institutions, adopting Doge by any means. So I don't know. I would say category wise, I'd probably
hasn't gone to zero yet.
Hasn't gone to zero yet, or maybe at least has a cool name. I mean, who doesn't love a dog? But it's always highly speculative, guys. I think I always point out like there's micro caps out there that are super legitimate, and they're going to be just as volatile as the meme coins. I'd rather, if I'm going to gamble on something that's volatile or invest money in something that's volatile, I'd rather do it with something that has utility that's still small cap and higher risk.
Yeah, that's a good point there, Matt. The Doge markets are pretty liquid, and so on some occasions you've pointed out like, hey, if you're going to go into meme coin world, just step into, the OGs, right? You got liquid markets, you can easily buy and sell them. Maybe a news event comes out and gets the Doge community super hype. I'm not going to be one of those people. I'm going to be buying the assets, that we're buying over here. But if you want to buy Doge, it's kind of whatever. It's actually below the 23.6% Fibonacci right now. So in technical terms, it makes, great sense to buy. In fundamental terms, though, it is one of the silliest buys you could possibly do and kind of disqualifies you from being a serious investor in my mind. Let's talk about one of our favorites, a person we used to shit on quite frequently back in the day, Matt, being Richard Hart with the crypto token Hex. What would you have to say if you get someone new here and they're like, I don't know anything about Hex? What would you say about Hex?
Hex is just like the ultimate Ponzi scheme, and y'all fell for it because this man wore Gucci instead of a stupid suit. Like, I don't understand. Really what it came down to is like taking your one set of coins and staking them to get another set of coins, and creating multiple chains that were like interrelated. And Richard Hart used some of this money to buy this, I don't know, like some onyx stone that would cost millions of dollars, is like the mascot for Hex, and obviously spent most of your guys' money that was in these like infinite CDs essentially on all kinds of like gross looking Louis bags and shit. So whatever, overall I think it's just a piece of human garbage regardless of the tech, and like I just don't get behind projects that have like actual human trash cans behind them. So that's going to be a tough toss up probably between you're a fucking idiot for buying this and I listened to that loud influencer. But that other loud influencer is like in jail again for threatening a judge. So I don't know, bro. It's a tough one. I think I'm just going to go with you're a fucking idiot for buying this, and that's my final answer.
Matt, it's so funny because I mean, this guy was like literally trying to live that life, doing constant interviews on YouTube to basically shill his Hex project. And really, if you want to know something about Hex, it's literally this: over promises with under delivers, with referral bonuses. If you got people into Hex, it had this weird APY that was just not going to be sustainable. I even, Maddie, is this the project where on the website it said we outperform Bitcoin?
Oh yeah,
Is that
that's
Hex?
that was a massive statement, which to me is like asking the SEC to label you as security. Like you are literally comparing gains. You're like, we will give you these gains if you buy Pulse. Like that's an insane thing to put on your website as a legitimate project.
If you really think about Hex in like the greater scheme of crypto, it's actually like the proto celebrity influencing of Schiller coins, like your Conor McGregor coin or your Hawk Tuah coin or any of these coins that your celebrities coming out, your Iggy Azalea coin, where these influencers come out. There's a pre-sale, the token gets launched, and then it goes to zero. And Hex is like a long-term version of that, but you did have this influencer, and I think he was one of the earliest influencers that did this. And you could say like, oh, well, Elon was like an influencer for Doge. If you actually took Elon Musk seriously for all those years, like he himself even said he didn't take himself seriously with all that. But with Richard Hart Hex, he took that to another level. It's like, what if I go all in on this asset and just reap all the benefits? And then it's like Wolf of Wall Street, but for Richard Hart, where everyone else gets kicked to the curb and I come out the winner. But, that is someone, Maddie, wouldn't you like to see Richard Hart taking on the trend? Take on the chin, because I think you said, because you were referencing BitBoy earlier about getting arrested. What do you know anything about Richard Hart nowadays? Is he in jail or where's he? What's he doing?
I think the last thing that I read says something to the extent of I think that the lawsuit against Hex itself was dismissed, but I don't
Oh,
know if the
sad.
individual lawsuit against Richard Hart was dismissed. So haven't really kept up. It's definitely not worthy of my time, but whatever. I do hope that this man, is found by somebody in some government. Doesn't have to be U.S. government. Like there's just no way that you're that kind of person that's comfortable with this kind of behavior, and this is the last time you do it, right? Like what Billy, what's his name from Fire Festival, literally came back and he's like,
Yeah.
out of jail, guys. Let's try it again. Like, are you? And people are buying tickets. It's insane. So I mean, whatever. It just also just shows like people who are like that will do the same thing, and people are stupid enough to buy it a second time. Like it's nuts.
That's a good point. Let's head over to Luna, and Luna has a very interesting story with Luna Foundation Guard buying up a bunch of Bitcoin, but in times of stress when the market was in decline in 2022, selling that Bitcoin. People were getting out of Anchor Protocol. The stable coin depegged, and you saw this big crazy reaction in the markets, Matt, where we got Luna basically going to zero, essentially all the way going to zero there. And it was very catastrophic because this was a crypto actually held by a lot of beloved crypto holders that, even we would associate with, that got into Luna and unfortunately were hurt.
Yeah, Luna is a very complex asset and an issue as a whole because there was just so many other things that were dependent on what was happening with Luna. In fact, it was really more of just like the first domino in the effect of unwinding this horrible leverage situation that we know is the summation of this last bear market. Category wise, I think it's going to say it hasn't gone to zero yet because technically you guys got vested tokens, to
Yeah.
compensate, but those are obviously still not worth even a hundredth of what you guys had holdings wise. A good example of unsustainable APY, again, where does the yield come from? I think that's our biggest thing that we see in the community now is like anytime you see an APY, you need to understand where it comes from. And if it's really high, like there's probably something that you're missing, right? Like there's either another token that you need to require in order to farm and yield that. Even then, like a permanent loss is a possibility with some protocols. I think hopefully that we're getting a little bit smarter when we see that kind of stuff. But obviously Do Kwon is an absolute piece of shit as well. Had set crypto back like literally years.
What a
with all the
time.
destruction, right? Like you ruined really a lot of the perception that the average public had at the time of crypto. I mean, they're already very sensitive because price is so volatile, and then you kind of add stuff and like, oh my god, like I better not buy anything because if Bitcoin goes down and something like this happens, why would I ever want to own crypto? So I think that we're going to get past that. You're going to have new waves of participants that come in that have no idea of what happened with Luna, but it was a great example of fraud and over leveraging. I guess those are the two big things that I think hunker down like the overall essence of Luna as a whole.
Yeah, great points there, Matt. Yeah, that was what a time. What that was. That was insane. Let's move on to the next one, being Squid Games. This is one that pumped like over 300%, but then shortly afterwards went directly to zero. with that, you saw like an immediate closure of the website, of all social medias, dead silent. You had anonymous team, so no one was held accountable. And I think Matt, you said a joke before, like, oh yeah, maybe one or two people made money off this asset.
Yeah, those meme coins, you guys, like, especially when the markets are high, like it, especially now with all the tools that are out there, it costs nothing and takes minutes to drum up a new coin. Like if I wanted to, I could drum up, crypto charge Kaka coin, and I could put it on the market literally before the show is over. So like just be super careful out there. Like it's super sad to me that people will take, oh, whatever they, at the time when the market feels like it's going up, you think that, you're going to make a quick buck, or everyone always is going to ride up, right? We're all going to win together. That's not the reality 99% of the time. So if I were to say, you give me that same amount of money, I'll, buy you a lottery ticket and you can actually win 100 times more. You'd be like, no, because you don't feel that safety in numbers thing with the lottery, right? But somehow we feel safety in numbers when it comes to things like meme coins, like Squid Game. So great example of someone taking something that was very catchy, very marketable at the right market time, creating that sense of community, creating, again, guys, what they do with these telegrams and stuff is they fill them with bots, right? And you think that there's all these people and they're hyped up. It's just bots talking to each other, and you guys are falling for it. You guys are falling for bots making out with each other, essentially, like about a coin. And that creates this false sense of community. You see a huge push from people who are whatever, just buying some tokens. Maybe they're even using some of the token allocation to buy some more tokens. And as soon as price is where they want it, rip it out and you're done. That's what a rug pull is, by the way. Anytime you guys see price go down, you guys see a rug pull, but that's not what that is. This is a true rug pull because there is one person that's controlling the majority of supply and has all of the information about, liquidity and all these different things, and manipulates that and utilizes other fraudulent measures in order to create that false sense of community. Just because you buy a coin that doesn't do what you want it to be price-wise does not make it a rug pull. This is a rug pull.
Maddie, moving on here, I'm struggling to decide whether SHIB should go in, at least it had a cool name, or at least it has a cool name, and it hasn't gone to zero. Does it have a cool name?
I think, I'm a sucker for dogs, man. And I think that's part of the problem here is I hate meme coins, but I love dogs. So I guess it's at least it's a cool name. So I guess you guys know that I have a heart. It's just not that big when it comes to memes.
The last one we could talk about here is actually one that has an interesting like crypto charge lore. I think this is the first time it's ever being told. And I'm not going to throw under the bus who is on the other opposing side of this, but what happened is someone was reviewing this crypto on the site, and obviously it was somewhat of a negative review, or somewhat of a like, be cautious. Definitely don't go out and ape into Time Wonderland. But what happened is I titled the video, Matt, I titled it like, this is like a definite scam, or looks really scammy, or something related to scam with Time Wonderland. And someone within our crypto charge group was, should we really be saying time is a scam? That's might be a little bit too much. So we ended up changing the titling, yada, yada, yada. A month later, now we're in 2022, just a month later, Time Wonderland goes to zero. And it is so embarrassing. And a lot of it had to do with like this confusion about the team. There's a lot of controversy, a lot of mismanagement that looked to be going on there, where like it was really scary, and it was like very centralized. So, Maddie was telling me someone, like a group of guys he knew, like he met. Maddie, tell the story about the guys you do.
Yeah, I mean, obviously at the time too, like if you're brand new to crypto and you're just finding all these like crazy projects out there, and you stumble across something like Time Wonderland, you're like, oh shit, I found the thing, right? Like it doesn't cost that much money. You keep staking rewards. The staking rewards are like 200% APY, and you get to earn additional coins in addition to that, right? Like especially if you're like really, really young, you're new to crypto, you don't have a lot of money. It's very, very easy to be like, this is it. Like, Matt, you don't get it. I found it. So obviously we've had multiple conversations about it in addition to other crypto stuff, but, talked about diversification. So most of the group, decided to also take some of their holdings and diversify. They decided to hold, some people decided to hold a little bit, but didn't get as impacted. But I've just seen enough scary stuff out there when I see those red flags that I just know. And it's like, I'm not telling you that it's going to crash tomorrow or whatever. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you get this, crazy APY forever, but there is just a certain amount of math and sustainability that comes to any project. And when you have that kind of like high yield, high leverage environment, it generally doesn't end up very well. So it's a bummer, but it's a learning lesson, right? And when you lose money, hopefully you take that as a true lesson, because it is one of the more humbling lessons you're going to learn, right? Like hypothetical lessons when you're in school and they're like, yeah, this could happen or whatever. And you get into your first car crash or something, and you're like, oh my God, like, like this is actually a very dangerous thing to do. Driving is very dangerous. So same with investing, we have to be like very cautious, do a lot of research, and do our very best to mitigate that risk so that we don't make expensive accidents that actually cost us money that we spend our time working for, right? Like think about, instead of, oh, I lost $1,000, whatever, like whatever amount of time it takes you to make that money, think about, oh, I lost 10 hours of my life, right? I lost 20 hours of my life. That's actually kind of a crazy way to think about it. So, treat your dollars with respect, you guys.
Yeah, good points there, Matt. And this kind of goes over to everything else we do. Like one of the things I saw this morning was like $50 million is being borrowed against with USDC against people's bitcoins on Morpho right now because Coinbase is rolling it out right now. And so what we want to see is continued progression, more money in the pools, more money being locked up so that we can feel safe about borrowing where it's not a house of cards, where a lot of these cryptos was a house of cards. Like Luna, complete house of cards. Over leveraging, you got the algorithmic, geez, I haven't said that word in so long, algorithmically pegged stablecoin. And so these are the cryptos that promised a lot and gave a little, high APYs to get in the asset. And we know now, looking back in 2025, that those aren't correct things you should be looking for in a crypto project. It's easy in 2025 to be like, oh yeah, like, well, you guys are idiots for buying all this. But team, we had to listen constantly out of, this isn't to throw shade to some of the crypto charge people in our community, but they were constantly throwing these assets out here. What about Hex? Richard Hart looks so promising. Oh, we could get into this asset like Time Wonderland. Oh, Doge is just a meme coin, all right? These are assets we are not looking to invest in, all right? Again, a couple prongs here. We're looking to make profits in the bull run, but we're also looking to build long-term strategic portfolios where you could borrow against it, right? This is one of the things where it's in consideration now, where it's like I can go in the next bull run and borrow against my Bitcoin now. That kind of makes me look at Bitcoin a little bit differently now, where there's features and there's tools being used, like full DApp or Bitcoin-backed loans on Coinbase, via Morpho and Base. That looks cool and appetizing to me. And what we need to see is sustainability, not just read the headline, Matt, and be like, oh, 400% APY, let's go. Like, are you serious right now? So hopefully, it's kind of crazy looking at these, Matt. We could also point, Hawk Tua coin and everyone else, celebrity meme coin on here. But these are just some of the ones that have been highly discussed over the years that crypto charge, been highly spoken in a negative light over the years. And so we're just kind of, a little blast from the past here, talking about things that weren't really kind of detrimental to crypto and things that, are kind of just funny to look back on in 2025 and be like, that was a funny time.
Absolutely. I'm excited that we have a lot more positive optics, I'd say, on crypto, even this year, even though we've had prices that are not as attractive to people. I think that a lot of what we're seeing now with the SEC, the government, adoption, a lot of very specific executive orders relating around crypto. Hopefully, we're going to start to be able to leave some of this stuff behind us. This isn't going to be as attractive. It's going to become one of those automatic things for people. When they see it, they know it. They don't have to be told, right? It's like the first time, whatever. We all fall for a dumb scam one time. Like my very worst one was like, whatever. This guy had a truck and he's like, oh yeah, my boss is an asshole. I've got all these speakers and I'm supposed to take them back, but I'll sell them to you for whatever, and they make them look like high-end speakers, but they're really just absolute pieces of shit that you pay $200 for. But you won't make that mistake again, right? Like the next time someone rolls up to you in a van with some speakers because their boss is an asshole, you're going to be like, kick rocks, buddy. Like we're not even talking about this. So hopefully we do the same thing when we see these kinds of assets. We become a little bit more cognizant of it. Same way when you guys get text messages say, log in, your Coinbase account's being used. Like we learn to be, ignore those things, become numb to them. So hopefully we do the same thing here.
That's good. My scam is I have a $3,300 rug sitting in my guest room right now that I have no idea what to do with. I have no idea. Like I thought it would be like a cool thing to put in my house, but the rug it's 11 by 11 rug, and I have no idea what to do with it. And it's over $3,000. And so now it's like, now I'm just wherever I am. It's like, hey, are you in the market for a rug from like the UAE, or it might be from India? I forgot where it's from, but hey, we've all been there, team. But hey, you get over it, you readjust. Thankfully, well, not thankfully, that rug is just completely like, it's not appreciating value. It's just sitting in there, and
maybe we should mint it as an NFT, Gavin. You can sell it, get a little XRP out of it,
I mean, we should just freaking do a giveaway at this point, because I have no idea. Like, it's just taking up room in my house, and it's just like a $3,000 loss that is just going to have to get eaten at some point, or So anyway, team, I think you got some good enjoyment out of this. Maybe a little history lesson about some of these cryptos, if you've heard of them, and if you're a crypto charge lifer here, I mean, some of these are probably funny. Some of you were probably affected by. You probably went against the better wishes of the team and still bought these. So maybe it was just fun to bring that up for today. Team, if you have questions for the Ask Maddie show, leave them in the comment section down below. We'll bring them up 2:30 p.m. Pacific this Wednesday. You guys got a longer show today, so make sure you guys leave a like and your questions down below. But we will see you guys Wednesday. Bye.